So I want you to picture a scenario. It's 2026, and this is probably happening in your organization right now. You're a VP of Field Ops, maybe a transformation leader, and you've just spent, what, the last 18 months and a huge chunk of your budget rolling out this perfect AI-driven dispatch system.
You bought the dream. The brochures looked amazing. Real-time optimization, predictive failure analysis, the works.
You've got the dashboards from Mordor Intelligence or FieldX telling you this is it, this is the future, and the intent was flawless. You want to optimize routing, cut downtime, and just, get ahead of the chaos for once.
But then you hit the field.
They hit the field.
And the reality of the field is it's usually mud and traffic and a technician who really does not want to use your new app.
Right. So the rollout happens and the adoption numbers are soft. But it's actually worse than just soft numbers. You've got technicians actively creating these shadow workflows. They're on WhatsApp groups, trading parts off the books. They're writing notes on the back of a work order instead of in the CRM. They're treating this expensive new tool less like a helper and more like a spy.
It feels like surveillance, and the classic management reaction to this is almost always the same. They see the low adoption, the data gaps, and they just say,
"You don't get it."
Say, "Don't get it. Schedule another webinar, more training."
And that is the trap. We're calling that the training fallacy.
It is, because if you're blaming resistance to change or a lack of training in 2026, you are missing the root cause completely. It's not that they don't know which button to press. It's that they don't trust why they're pressing it.
That distinction is exactly what we're going to unpack in this deep dive.
Yeah.
We're looking at a very specific, maybe even a controversial argument today.
I think so.
The technology adoption in field service is not a training problem. It is a purpose and standards alignment problem, and it's shaped by behavioral design.
We're pulling a lot from Michael Blystone's book, Field Services Rewired, and some recent market data on AI. And the premise is fascinating because it stops treating purpose and standards as these fluffy HR slogans you stick on a poster.
Which, let's be honest, is usually where they end up. Safety is our priority, with a picture of an eagle or something.
Exactly. Blystone argues that these aren't slogans, they are behavioral infrastructure. And if you don't build that infrastructure first, the fanciest AI tool in the world is just going to crumble under the weight of human psychology.
Behavioral infrastructure. I like that. I want to stick a pin in it, but we need to make it actionable. So the mission for this deep dive is to walk through how you actually use this framework, specifically with behavioral nudging, to build trust before you turn on the telemetry.
Trust before telemetry. That's the key phrase. If you take one thing from this discussion, let it be that.
Okay, so let's strip this down. The core framework. Blystone talks about the why, which is purpose, and the how, which is standards. Let's be a little cynical for a minute. For a technician in a van trying to fix a server while a customer is breathing down their neck, what does purpose actually do?
No, it's a fair question. It's not about a warm, fuzzy feeling. It's biological. In a decentralized team, which field service always is, purpose works to reduce fear.
Fear of what, exactly?
Fear of making the wrong call, fear of the unknown. If you look at Chapter 3 in the source, purpose is the North Star. But practically, it just answers the question, what am I actually defending here?
So it's about separating the task from the goal.
Precisely. I mean, think about the difference. A task is binary. Close ticket number 405. You either did it or you didn't. But if the technician's purpose is defined as, say, restore user confidence, that changes everything.
How does that play out in the actual software, in the moment?
Okay, good example. The AI suggests a route optimization. It wants the tech to leave the site right now to hit a travel time metric, but the tech knows the customer is still, really anxious about the fix.
All right.
If the tech is task-driven, they leave. They obey the algorithm, but they failed the customer. And you probably get a call back later.
Which costs more in the long run.
Way more. But if they're purpose-driven, restore confidence, they know they have the authority to override the AI. They can stay 10 more minutes, explain the fix, and make sure the customer feels good. Purpose gives them the why they need to use the tool intelligently, not just blindly comply.
This stops them from being maliciously compliant.
That's the perfect phrase for it. Yes. Yeah. It empowers their judgment.
Okay, but you can't just have everyone doing whatever they feel is right in the name of purpose. That sounds like chaos. If every tech spends an extra hour restoring confidence, the whole business model falls apart.
Which brings us to the other side of that coin. Standards. If purpose is the why, standards are the how. And this is so critical standards aren't just a policy list in a binder, they're behavioral guardrails.
The source material had a concept, the service standard, ladder, principle, observable behavior, consistency trigger. That sounds a little academic. Can we break that down?
Sure. Let's take a safety rule. The principle is maybe safety first. It's vague. It doesn't tell you what to do.
It's just a nice sentiment.
Exactly. So you move down the ladder. The observable behavior isn't be safe. It is. We always introduce ourselves and explain the safety protocol before touching any equipment. That's specific. You can see it happen or not happen.
And a trigger.
Upon arrival. That's the consistency trigger. It removes all the ambiguity. So when a technician is looking at a complex AI dashboard, feeling overwhelmed, the standard gives them a clear, simple action.
So this critical interplay that Bleastone talks about is really the tension between these two forces.
It's a balance. If you have purpose without standards, lots of why but no how, you get chaos. Everyone's doing different things to help the customer, and your data is a complete mess.
And the other way around. Standards without purpose.
That's where you get resentment, micromanagement, a team that feels like they're just cogs in a machine following a rule book with no soul. You need both to create the psychological safety a tech needs to actually trust a new tool.
Let's talk about that trust, because this feels like where it all comes together. You said technicians view these new AI tools as either surveillance versus support.
This is the invisible constraint. I mean, in almost every failed rollout, this is it. You have to look at it through the SCARF model.
Okay, for anyone who hasn't done an MBA recently, can you define SCARF for us?
Yeah, it's a neuroscience framework from Chapter 30. It stands for status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, and fairness. These 5 things trigger either a threat or a reward response in our brains.
And when we roll out a new app, we are just accidentally stepping all over these triggers?
Constantly. Let's just take status. You have a senior tech, 20 years on the job. They know these machines by the sounds they make. Suddenly, you give them an app that diagnoses the problem before they even arrive.
They feel redundant.
Their status is threatened. They feel like the machine is the expert now, and they're just the hands. Their brain literally processes that like physical pain. They'll reject the tool just to prove they're still the expert.
And autonomy has to be the big one for field service, right?
Yeah.
The whole appeal of the job is being out on your own.
100%. The question in their head is, does this tool override my judgment? If the software forces a route that the tech knows is bad because of local traffic,
their autonomy is gone. They feel controlled.
Right. And then there's cognitive load. Imagine you are, up a telephone pole, it's raining, the customer is annoyed, and the app is demanding you fill out 15 required fields to close the job.
That does not feel like support. It feels like homework.
It feels like the tool is setting you up to fail. So look, technicians will adopt technology when it protects them, when it makes them more certain, and when it preserves their discretion. They resist it when it exposes them or when it measures them before it helps them.
Okay, so we have the theory. Purpose, standards, respect the SCARF triggers. But, and this is the challenge for most leaders listening, we can't just rewrite the source code for ServiceNow or Salesforce. We're stuck with the platforms we have.
Right, and you don't need to rewrite the code, but you can change the framing. This is what we'd call the nudging layer.
Nudging. This is from behavioral economics, from Thaler and Sunstein, right?
Yes. Choice architecture. And it's not manipulation. It's about making the preferred action the easiest action. It's about aligning the user interface with that human need for autonomy.
Let's get really concrete. Give me a specific field nudge that I could implement without calling a developer.
Okay, perfect. Look at your dispatch acceptance screen. Usually it says something like accept job or required action.
Pretty standard.
Change the wording to recommended next step.
That feels incredibly subtle. Does a little thing like that actually work?
It works because of the autonomy trigger. Recommended implies that I, the technician, still have the final say. I'm confirming the AI's good idea. Required implies I'm just a robot executing an order. It totally changes the psychological relationship.
I like that. What about escalations? That's always a huge pain point.
Huge. Because hitting the escalate button feels like admitting failure. It's saying, I couldn't fix it. So techs avoid it, they struggle for hours, and your margins get destroyed.
So how do you nudge that behavior?
You frame the prompt as support, not failure. So instead of a button that just says, escalate to tier 2, the prompt asks a question, this issue looks complex. Would you like expert assistance?
Ah, that protects their status. It's not, I failed. It's, this is a tough one, and I'm being resourceful.
Exactly. You're reframing the action. It's a completely different story they tell themselves.
There was another example in the book on data capture, which I thought was brilliant, because getting text to write good notes is like the holy grail.
Right, the emoji taps.
Yeah, explain that one.
Technicians hate typing on glass screens, especially with gloves on. It's high friction. So instead of a text box asking, how did the customer feel, you just present 3 emojis. Happy, neutral, angry.
Just reduces the cognitive strain.
Drastically. And you get better data. Because 100% of text will tap an emoji, but maybe 20% will type a full sentence.
One more, the status protection messaging. This felt really relevant to AI.
Yes. So imagine a predictive maintenance system. If it sends a message saying, system failure detected, that sounds alarming. It sounds like a problem the tech now has to own.
It's a burden.
But if you change that notification to, we identified a risk to protect your uptime, it frames the AI as a proactive guardian. It's a confidence architect.
It aligns the tool with the tech's own desire to succeed.
And that ties right back to purpose. The AI is helping them defend the customer's uptime.
Okay, so we've got the theory, the psych triggers, and the nudges. Let's talk implementation. The source outlines a 5-step adoption sequence. If I'm a leader listening and my big rollout is struggling, what do I do on Monday?
It's a recovery process. Step 1 is define purpose. You have to get everyone in a room and clarify what the team is actually defending. Is it uptime, customer confidence? It has to be bigger than fixing things.
Step 2.
Define standards, mark the lines. Where does autonomy end? What are the non-negotiables? These are your guardrails. You can't have safe AI adoption if the humans don't know the rules of the road.
Then step 3, map decisions.
This is critical for AI. You have to distinguish between high autonomy decisions like how to talk to a customer and high consequence decisions like safety protocols, where the AI's guardrails are very tight.
So you're explicitly telling the team, here's where the robot helps decide, and here's where you are the expert.
Exactly. You're giving them protected territory. It reduces the fear that the AI is coming for their whole job.
Step 4 is where we just were, insert nudges.
Great. Go into your CRM settings, your mobile app configuration. Change the language, add the emoji taps, rephrase the error messages. This is usually low-code or no-code work.
And finally, step 5, measure certainty.
This is the hard one for a lot of organizations. You have to move away from only measuring speed like mean time to resolution. Start measuring certainty and trust. Blystone talks about XLA's experience level agreements.
Certainty over speed, that seems to be the mantra.
It has to be. Speed without certainty is just faster chaos. Closing a ticket in 20 minutes means nothing if the customer is still confused and you have to go back next week.
Let's ground this in one final example. A, before and after, for an AI dispatch rollout.
Okay. So the before state where a lot of companies are is purely directive. The system just says, go to site A, replace part B.
It's metric heavy, all about travel time, wrench time.
And the tech feels like a robot's hands. It's compliance driven. And if the tech gets there and realizes part B isn't the real problem, well, now they're fighting the system.
So they just swap the part anyway and leave, knowing it's going to break again.
Malicious compliance. They did what the tool said, even though their expertise told them it was wrong.
Okay, now let's apply the behavioral AI framework. What does the after state look like?
It starts with purpose. The message isn't just go to site A. It is, our predictive model suggests an 80% risk of failure at site A. We're dispatching you to prevent customer downtime.
It gives them the why.
Exactly. And then it preserves autonomy. The recommended route is X. Please confirm or adjust based on local conditions. It invites their expertise into the process.
And the result?
The tech sees the AI as their partner, a confidence architect. They're thinking, this tool helps me be the hero who prevents a problem. And so adoption rises because the tool is actually helping them fulfill their purpose.
It really feels like a shift from managing workers to enabling experts.
That's the fundamental change. And honestly, with the complexity of tech in 2026 edge computing, IoT, you can't micromanage these environments anymore. You have to trust the judgment of the person at the edge.
So let's recap the strategic pillars of this behavioral AI for field service teams philosophy.
I'd say it comes down to 4 things. Designing trust, protecting autonomy, clarifying standards, and critically, reducing cognitive strain.
And always remembering that technology should be, what was that quote from Chapter 7?
A magnifying glass for empathy, not a replacement for it.
That's the one. It really pushes back on the idea that AI is here to replace the human.
It should be here to remove the friction, not the human.
For listeners who want to go deeper, these frameworks are all detailed in Field Services Rewired by Michael Blystone. And there's ongoing work on these ideas at purposefulnudge.substack.com.
Yeah, that's highly recommended, especially for the practical templates on nudging.
Before we sign off, we like to leave our listeners with one final thought. something to chew on.
I would just ask this. If your technicians are resisting your technology right now, stop asking, why do they hate change? And instead, ask a different question. What are they protecting?
That completely flips the script.
Are they protecting their purpose, their autonomy, their status, or their sense of certainty?
Because they're protecting something.
Always. And usually it's something valuable like their professional pride that your software has accidentally threatened.
The future of field service isn't about faster resolutions. It's about restoring trust at the edge. Thanks for listening to this deep dive.